Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. If you don't know already, my name is Ellie and I moved back to Australia from living in America. A very shortened version of my story is that I was born in Melbourne, Australia and then moved over to California when I was about 8 years old. Then from when I was 8 years old, lived there for a majority of my life and just moved back here officially 2 years ago today. So it is my 2-year little anniversary of living back in Australia and I could not be more happier. So really I just wanted to take the time today to explain my journey of moving over here, why I moved over here, and how I've really found living in Melbourne, Australia for the last 2 years. I have a full list of different topics that we're going to be talking about today, just so you can kind of see what the vibe is going to be for the video. If you want, you can click around and find the portion that you want to listen to, or you can just listen to the whole thing the whole way through, which I would recommend, because I think it gives more of like a full picture and the full idea of my motivation and reasons for moving over here as well. So first we begin. So the first question is why I moved back to Australia. And I get this question asked all the time on my channel, but I don't think I've actually sat down and fully explained all of the reasons why. I could probably make a whole video about it as well, and I might down the line. In short, all of my family is still here in Australia. All my aunts, all my uncles, both my grandparents on both sides. In addition to that, all my cousins are here as well. I have about 20 to 30 cousins. I don't really want to add them all up right now, but I have a lot of cousins and they're all in a similar age group to me as well. So that was a big reason on me moving back, is just because I wanted to be a lot closer to the family that I remembered growing up, especially leaving at like 8 years old. I feel like there's so much that I remember and there's so much that I cherished with our shared childhood that it was all this like nostalgic effects, and I really just wanted to get back to that. That was a big reason. I also was really hating my job at the time. I was working for like a really big tech company in California, and although it had a great name, I feel like the actual quality of work that I was doing and like my day-to-day work that I was doing was just not really motivating me. And there were all these hiring freezes going on in the US, and I heard that Australia had a little bit better of a market, but I do know that Australia normally reflects whatever the US market has. So I knew that if I was going to move over there, I'd have to find a job. Oh my God, the dog is chewing on a bag. This is not good. Look what he did. Oh my God. Like I was saying. So a big reason of me moving back was definitely family, but also about my job as well. I feel like I needed a full restart. I guess moving countries was my one way that I thought it was going to be. The year before as well, I did go on a trip to Australia. So I was back in Australia twice. Oh, here's the puppy. Here he is. Come on, come on. Ready? Go. Ha 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 ha. Got him. So yeah, really the big reason that I actually moved over here was because of work, was because of I wanted to be closer to family. I'd also taken a trip to Australia the year before I moved. I moved in 2023, but in 2022, I actually visited Australia twice. So I visited for a winter break and then I came back for Christmas as well. And being around my family, especially around Christmas time, I was like, I am loving this way too much. Like being around my family again, sharing all the memories that we had, taking photos together, just like being family is something that I so missed living in California. Like, yes, I'm really close with my immediate family, but at the same time, having all of that extended family just felt very warming to me. I don't know any other kind of adjective for it, but it just felt really nice and something I wanted to be surrounded around because I have such good family to be around. I know I feel really quite lucky as well because a lot of people just don't have a strong family connection like I do. So why would I be living 8,000 miles away from them? Wouldn't I want to be as close to them and be around them as much as possible? So that was a big reason on moving over. And then obviously the job piece as well. But I also was just feeling quite mad at America as well. I haven't really talked about this before. There's certain things that were happening in the media. I just felt like I wanted to get away from it. And anytime I'd be back in Australia, I just felt like that part of the world was a little bit more shut off, at least to me personally. There were a lot of little things that added up to the value of Australia for me as well. So for example, like not paying tip on stuff and not having to pay taxes. Well, taxes is included, but not paying tax on top of certain meals. Like little things like that as well, I think really pushed me to move to Australia. And I think for anyone who's ever come and visited Australia for the first time, you really see the beauty in it and just how kind people are, how nice the atmosphere is, and just the strong vibe of just like good people. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just like you come to Australia and you're like, wow, this place is just so special. And you see why so many people want to move here and live here. So reconnecting with home, how did that feel? Definitely when I first came over, I was known as the American, and I'm still kind of known as the American as well. And I'm the butt end of a lot of jokes, which is fine. Like it doesn't really bother me. But I think like coming back home just felt so normal And I think because I know my family so well growing up, it was just pretty much like slotting myself back into that community already. It didn't feel like a lot had changed and people still loved me for who I was or who I am. That was just something really beautiful to me as well, that I could just come back and it felt like nothing had changed and it didn't feel like years and years had passed. It was also really cool to just hear all these stories about, you know, me as a kid, or even my parents as kids, or even my brother and sister, and like how they acted when they were growing up, like who were they the closest with in terms of the cousins, like just all these fun little stories that I was like, wow, oh my God, I would not have heard of that, or I wouldn't know that from my mom or dad. I would have to be here with my grandparents or here with my aunt and uncles, and they would have to tell the stories. Reconnecting with home and like hearing more of those stories just was like, oh my gosh, like I feel so good about being here. It was amazing. And we all know that there are so many differences between Australia and the US. I've literally made so many videos and so many series on the differences. Definitely check out those videos if you're curious, but I won't be diving into those details here because yeah, you've already seen me blab a lot on it. So just go ahead and watch those videos. I'll spare you the time here. So building a life in Australia was also challenging but easy at the same time. There are so many aspects of life that you have to build when you're here. So things like your work, your community, your friends, your day-to-day activities, everything gets flipped over as well. And I feel like my day-to-day life is so different than it was in California. So in comparison, in California, I was driving everywhere because there wasn't really any public transport that worked well. Like you just had to drive everywhere, and it was quite normal to drive everywhere as well. And I was also working a full-time remote job. When I came to Australia and what I'm doing now, I don't own a car. I literally take public transport everywhere I go. And I also work full-time in the city, literally 5 days a week, 8 to 5 in the city. So it's very different from like the day-to-day, but this is so much more aligned to me and exactly what I wanted. So the fact that I was able to change that and move so quickly just shows me like how good it can get and how cool it is that when you want to just change something about it, like you can, you're not stuck where you are. And I would think that's my advice for anyone who's kind of debating if they should move and if it's worth it to move as well. It literally is always worth it. Even if you fail, even if you have to go back to your home country, you will learn so much in the process. So this is my advice, just do it. Also, Australia is known for their work-life balance, and I definitely feel that is stronger here for sure. I also work a job in recruitment, so I'm definitely looking at the job market all the time. Comparing it to the US, people crave work-life balance so much more, but there's also still ability for people, if you want to work really hard to make a lot of money, you still can do that here as well. Like it's not limiting you by being in Australia to make a lot of money. There's just so much expectation on having a bit more work-life balance. Like people won't get mad at you if you leave right at 5 p.m. and you're not staying late. Where in the US, I felt like it was a little bit more pressure to have more of an output and always be working. Like it's seen as very impressive. It's still seen as impressive here, but people are a little bit like, are you crazy? Why are you working 12-hour days? Like relax a little bit. Where in the US, it might be a little bit more encouraged. So making friends and finding a community is definitely on the harder side. I would say like my community within my job and my family is very, very strong. Oh, I didn't even mention where I am right now, but I'm in my aunt and uncle's house. And it's just so cool just being able to like jump around and hang out with people, especially with family. Like it's just an open door policy. Like I'll just call them and be like, hey, can I come over for the weekend? And I'll just come, and it's so easy with family. So I feel like that side of community, I have gotten it down really, really well. Friends is a little bit harder because I work a full-time 8 to 5 job, and then obviously I do YouTube on the side as well. So that takes so much of my time. And if I'm not working on that, I'm normally hanging out with family or just having my own recharge time. So I feel like I'm not someone who goes out and tries to find a lot of friends, if that makes sense. Like I just don't feel like I need a lot of friends. Like I've got my core group and that's totally fine for me. But there is so many opportunity to find friends. So if you're someone who wants a lot of friends when you move to Australia, there's definitely space for that. And a lot of people are searching for friends at the same time. For example, they have all of these like park runs where you can go and like meet people. They have like paint and sips where you can go meet people. I constantly see stuff on like Instagram and people talking about it as well, where you can go out and just meet people in different scenarios. You can even go to like clubs and bars and all that stuff too. Like there's definitely the space for that here as well. So if you're that type of person, like go for it. But for me, I'm good with my core little group and that's totally fine for me. So for community, like I think I've done a really great job in the last 2 years of building that. And even just for like the normal kind of third space communities as well. I even talked about in an old video, but like I know my bus drivers now, and like I know my coffee shops to go to, and when I walk in, they're like, oh my God, Ellie, like you're here. Yeah. It's so fun being part of a community like that because I didn't really get it in America. I don't know if I just didn't go out of the house enough, but definitely here, like I feel like people are just really welcoming and they get to know you a little bit more and they care about you as well. You're not just a paycheck to them, you're like an actual person as well. So some challenges and surprises about moving to Australia as well. I think something that was a surprise was how much I love public transport. Like I didn't think that I'd be like, oh my God, I love trains, but like I love trains. Like jetting around, riding around with my little Mikey car, just going everywhere. Like I have so much fun taking public transport, and the amount of money I save is insane. So I actually did some math on it, and in Australia, to own a small car, the costs of it are like 15 grand a year. And I was like, there's no freaking way I'm paying for that. Also, I live in Melbourne, by the way, so it could be different to the other cities in Australia, but I just take the train into the city every day. So it's like so easy for me. I don't even have to think about parking. I don't have to think about my keys. I don't have to think about, oh, is someone gonna steal my car? Like it's so much more freeing by taking public transport. So I'm just obsessed with it. One surprise I had though was how damn expensive it is to live here in terms of actually getting a house. It's actually insane how hard it is to get a rental apartment. I remember when I went to some showings when I first got my apartment, it was like 30 people for like a 1-bedroom tiny ass apartment in some random suburb. It's so hard to find a property. So if you're looking to move over as well, I'd recommend this one Facebook group. It's called Fairy Floss. And people just like post their different rental properties and stuff in there, and you can get subleases, which is a lot easier than if you just kind of go out to market, go on realestate.com.au and try and find it that way. It's so much more harder. So I definitely recommend that Facebook group. It helped me a ton when I was even getting out of my apartment into the house that I'm in now. So how my perspective has changed about living here. I would say I feel genuinely like a lot happier here. Like genuinely I do. Like I just feel more supported in my community. I feel like I have more goals that I can see. And I don't know if that's just the time in my life that I'm in as well, but I just feel like the environment supports the way that I want to move and the way that I want to go. I feel there's more support for like healthy living, that work-life balance, you know, exercising a lot. There is more support for that here in Australia. Being around that kind of environment just pushes you to do a little bit more of that, which I really appreciate. And I would say like I feel more Australian as well. Even watching back some of my old videos, I realized how strong and thick my American accent is, but now it's kind of faded a little bit, which I find interesting. I did have an Australian accent. That was the first accent that I had. So maybe I'm just going back to my roots with it. But I definitely feel a lot more Australian now. Like I say more Australian slang terms. I even say, instead of ketchup, I say tomato sauce now. And my friend who was visiting recently, she was like, oh my God, did you say tomato and not tomato? And I was like, oh, damn, I guess I do. So there's all these things that I shocked myself with what I've picked up that I didn't actually know that I've picked up. And even some things I'll say to my American friends and I'm like, oh, that's not an American word. Like I thought that was an American word and it's Australian. So I really feel like I've fully dived into being in Australia and being an Australian. It's funny because I still have the American accent. So people think like, oh, you're new to Australia. Oh my God. Like, let me tell you about kangaroos and koalas. And I'm like, bro, I'm so Australian, I swear. And I think too, just seeing all of the political turmoil that is happening in the US at the moment, I do feel better about being here in Australia. Not commenting on Australian political climate at all, but more so just the crazy news that comes out of America. It's like, damn, I'm kind of happy that I'm a bit far away from it at this point. Even though Australia will definitely still be affected about what's going on in the US, I think everywhere in the world is going to be affected by the US, so can't really do much about that. In terms of some final thoughts as well, so I write in my journal almost every day, and I constantly write about how thankful I am that I made that jump to move 2 years ago. I think it was so pivotal in just my own personal development, but also just even in my career, and like I actually used the move to kind of justify me starting this YouTube channel as well, which is crazy. So like this wouldn't be here if I stayed in the US, which is like insane to me. So it just feels so aligning for me to be here in Australia. And I just feel like everything came together and I'm genuinely so happy that I moved. And if I could tell my 2 years ago self anything about what it's like now, is just to trust the process. Keep going, keep aiming for what's next. Life gets so good, and I'm just so happy about it. Oh my God, I didn't expect this video to get kind of emotional with it, but like, yeah, genuinely one of the best decisions I think I've ever made in my life. And I'm so happy that I'm here. And I'm so happy that you guys are here too, watching me kind of just go through this journey as well. If you guys have any other questions as well about my experience, like definitely drop it down in the comments and I'll give a response to you as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for following me on my journey. More videos to come. You already know I'm posting once a week, every Friday. Stay tuned for those. Also, what's kind of funny is that I also moved on my anniversary with my boyfriend. So happy 4 years to James and I. Sorry that I had to move on our anniversary, James. Lol. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you for staying till the end. Much love, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.